Some folks are starting to trickle in. So welcome to Executive Functioning in Early Learning. Again, we're going to wait just a couple of more minutes to give folks time to register with the new link that was sent. But thank you all for joining us today. All right. Again, thank you and welcome to Executive Functioning in Early Learning. I am Erica King and I'm the Senior Content Developer or Development Manager here at Hatch, working with a number of our products and all of the content and research that is involved. Today we will be discussing theories of executive functioning, functions of executive functioning, racial discrimination and executive functioning, and executive dysfunction, and finally, developing executive functioning skills. So let's get started with theory. First, I'll start by defining what cognitive is. Cognitive is defined as mental activities such as thinking, reasoning, remembering, imagining, learning words, and using language. And so executive functioning is the cognitive process that directs behavior. There are numerous theories involving executive functioning. However, today we will highlight the central executive functioning theory, or the central executive theory, also known as the working memory model, which is the process of retaining information, as well as the cognitive complexity and control theory, which builds upon the central executive theory and suggests that executive functioning and development, as well as problem-solving skills, are based on age-related increases. Here in the working memory model, we see that the inner eye is how we process information visually or spatially. And the inner ear is how our voice, or how we process speech and store spoken words. With the cognitive complexity and control theory, it is based on the ability to analyze, infer, and problem solve. So again, what are some functions of executive functioning based on these theories and many more? Research and theory have both identified various core executive functionings or executive functions. And today, the core functions we will be discussing are self-control, working memory, and mental flexibility. Self-control is what enables children to set priorities and resist impulsive actions and responses. The self-control function helps children avoid saying or doing the wrong thing, paying attention at the right times, struggle for even as adults, and to switch focus when needed. Emotional control is specifically managing emotions to achieve goals, complete tasks, or control and direct behavior, such as staying calm and implementing coping mechanisms when needed. Early development of emotional control looks like accepting no from a teacher, accepting disappointment, and practicing non-aggressive solutions during conflicts with peers. Response inhibition is a child's capacity to think before engaging in action, or again, the ability to resist the urge to say or do something. And in early development, emotional control looks like asking before taking things or waiting your turn during a group activity. Sustained attention is a child's capacity to maintain attention to a situation or task despite distractions, fatigue, and so often boredom. Early development of sustained attention looks more like completing a task independently, again, participating in a short group activity, and listening during story time. Working memory, our second core function, governs a child's ability to retain and manipulate distinct pieces of information over short and long periods of time, such as remembering details or making decisions based on their experiences. It incorporates the ability to draw on past learnings or experiences to apply to current or future situations. Remembering is simply the ability to hold information, and using it is how we implement it to perform complex tasks. In early development, this looks as simple as following the steps of a routine. Mental flexibility helps children sustain or shift in response to different demands or apply different rules in different settings. Managing time, planning, organizing, and multitasking all fall under this function. Again, cognitive flexibility, that word again, is a child's mental ability to switch between different concepts or to think about multiple concepts simultaneously. In early development of cognitive flexibility, it is adjusting to changes in plans or routines with just a little bit of warning, as well as connecting concepts not directly related to personal experiences. Metacognition is their ability to stand back and take a bird's eye view of oneself and a situation. It's the ability of the child to observe their own use of problem solving, such as self-monitoring and self-evaluating skills. Most often in early development, it will look like making minor adjustments to a strategy that they're using to help solve a problem, engaging in some self-talk with their own actions or about their own actions, and briefly describing to others how they are going to solve a problem, as well as describing their emotional state. So in addition to the 3 core functions, there are plenty of sub-functions. They are focused attention, persistence, task initiation, self-monitoring, time management, planning, prioritization, and organization. Now, unfortunately, several factors can disrupt a child's executive functioning development. And one of those things is racial discrimination. So exactly how does it impact a child's mental health, specifically executive functioning? Well, discrimination is a stressor, and its effects may depend on the timing of exposure. However, any exposure can cause harmful influences or expectations regarding social situations. And as a result, the cognitive effort required to evaluate and respond to social threats is interrupted, making it challenging to shift attention away from stressors and enable stress recovery. In this groundbreaking study, 4 dolls, identical except for skin color, were used to test children's racial perceptions. Their subjects were children between the ages of 3 to 7, and they were asked to identify both the race of the dolls and which color they preferred. Most children preferred the white dolls and assigned positive characteristics to it as well. The Clarks, which were leading psychologists in the study, concluded that prejudice, discrimination, and segregation created a feeling of inferiority among Black children and damaged their self-esteem. The Clarks, Mamie and Kenneth, are 2 notable pioneers in the field of mental health. Their doll test was the first of its kind to prove that racial discrimination may impair overall development, including executive functioning skills. And through this study, the Clarks helped to provide evidence in favor of ending school segregation in the 1954 Supreme case of Brown versus the Board of Education, citing that school segregation was psychologically harmful to Black children. Additionally, in 1946, the Clarks opened the Northside Center for Child Development in Harlem, New York. And the center still exists today, providing children and families behavioral mental health and education services. This is a quote from Dr. Kenneth Clark. And before I read the quote, I would also just kind of like to preface that this quote is from the 1950s. And as our society progresses, we know that all children deserve an educational environment that is filled with love and acceptance. He said, to separate Black children from others of similar age and qualifications solely because of their race generates a feeling of inferiority. as to their status in the community that may affect their hearts and minds in a way unlikely to ever be undone. Segregation inhibits the development of white children too. So let's move on to executive dysfunctions. Some common causes of executive dysfunction in children, or typically in children, are things such as ADHD, autism, OCD, and other fetal substance abuse related disorders. Symptoms of dysfunction often create challenges in a child's ability to plan and organize, control emotions or impulses, meet long-term goals, analyze, and process. So, excluding external factors, such as things like discrimination and dysfunctional orders that may impair a child's ability to grow their skills or grow their executive functioning skills, there are many ways to promote executive function development in a general education classroom environment. But before we dig into classroom strategies and activities for promoting executive functioning skills, I would like to ask that you please drop in the chat, what is the most challenging executive function to support in your classroom? And I'm going to move or shift my head over to my second screen so that I can read your answers. It doesn't have to be one of the core three. It could be any of the sub-functions or just a challenge you feel like sharing. Thank you, Alexandra. All right, well, we are going to move on. Alexandria shared that a challenge in her class is the children kind of feeling like they need to compare who is best, transitioning outside of our routine. That's a great one. Routines are always a challenge, especially after a break or in the beginning of the school year. Thank you, Chrissy. All right. So no matter how challenging some of these executive functioning skills may be to help grow, there are many opportunities to help develop them in your classroom, and it breeds lifelong benefits. So for instance, school achievement. Executive function skills help children remember and follow multi-step instructions, avoid distractions, control rash responses, adjust when rules change, and persist at problem solving and managing long-term assignments. It impacts positive behaviors by helping children develop skills of teamwork, leadership, decision-making, working toward goals, critical thinking, ability or adaptivity, and being aware of one's own emotion as well as that of others. So similar to what Alexandra said. A societal benefit overall is that it will help produce more stable communities, it'll help reduce crime, and we'll just have greater social cohesion. Executive functioning also impacts how children develop positive choices about nutrition and exercise, and hopefully in the future resisting risky behaviors such as engaging in drug use. And lastly, how does it impact a successful work environment? Well, executive functioning skills increase our potential for economic success because we're better organized, we're able to solve problems that require planning, and we're prepared to adjust to changing circumstances. And another societal benefit is that it creates greater prosperity due to innovation, more competent and flexible workforce. So some classroom strategies. While the strategies I discussed today are directly from the pyramid model, like many other strategies, as educators, we should use them in collaboration with culturally responsive practices. The pyramid model is a framework of evidence-based practices you can use to promote the social and emotional competence of young children. Research shows that implementation of the pyramid model is related to improvements in young children's social skills, problem behavior, and development of executive functions. There are several practices, however, today I will combine and highlight for a total of 5. The first is engagement. Engaging in supportive conversations with children acknowledge and expand their communications and interactions. This will help promote cognitive flexibility, emotional control, and working memory. Second is feedback. Providing positive, descriptive feedback to promote engagement in the classroom and social expectations will positively impact metacognition, emotional control, and goal-directed persistence. Third, engaging activities. Providing engaging activities to promote child learning and reduce challenging behavior, plus a balanced schedule of activities to minimize the children's time not engaged in learning, helps develop sustained attention, goal-directed persistence, and time management. Fourth are schedules. Teaching children to use and follow a schedule as they anticipate activities helps promote organization, planning, and time management. And last but not least, expectations. Teaching rules and expectations of the classroom and structuring transitions, to Chrissy's point, helps increase metacognition, task inhibition, and response inhibition. So some classroom activities that you can implement at any time to help promote some of these functions. Movement challenges help develop self-control, specifically response inhibition, because children must synchronize words and actions. Classic movement games such as Follow the Leader, Red Light, Green Light, and Simon Says are a few examples. Puzzles exercise visual working memory and planning skills. Matching games, which are classic activities, help to exercise working memory skills and can easily be adjusted to promote cognitive flexibility just by switching the rules. For example, instead of matching bees, they could match all things that are yellow. And lastly, imaginative play. Children can determine what is needed, hold this information in their mind, and then follow through with exercises which help with their working memory. In developing flexibility, mental flexibility, both STEAM toys and brain teasers help children exercise engagement and creativity, but without instant gratification to help build flexible thinking. And once again, imaginative play is helpful here in that if an original plan doesn't work out, children need to adjust their ideas and try again and again, which exercises their cognitive flexibility. We could also develop all of the functions through gamification. Utilizing gamification technology or utilizing gamification technology is another classroom activity that can be implemented to promote executive functioning skills. The Ignite table by Hatch is a great example of how gamification helps practice these skills. It was designed specifically to promote self-control, working memory, planning, focused attention, persistence, flexibility, and self-monitoring. In collaborative experiences, which the games in the table are broken down into 2 types of games, collaborative and associative. And in the collaborative experiences, children share and interact with each other to reach a common goal. And in these games, children must pass items, trade, and share materials, all in order to complete the experience. For example, in a collaborative digital experience where the goal of the game is to pass a soccer ball as many times as possible. So in this game, children are engaging in on-the-table social play by passing the ball. And in associative experiences, children are engaging with other children in a mutual activity without necessarily directly interacting with them on the screen. And in these games, children do not have to engage in social play by sharing, trading, or passing, but they do have opportunities to offer advice to their friends or help in commenting on their actions or assistance with instructions, things of that nature. During this digital Ignite table game, children actively practice self-control by managing their impulses to touch the cupcake and right away to feed the monster. Children practice delaying gratification or waiting, and the cupcakes in the hub have just come out of the oven and they're too hot to touch just yet. So children practicing will have to wait until the cupcakes have cooled before they put them in the tube to feed the monster. During this game, children practice working memory by learning the order of steps necessary to grow a fruit or vegetable, and then remembering that order to complete the task. Children must follow one-step directions to plant a garden. First, they dig a hole, then plant a seed, and finally they water the seed. And near the end of the game, they'll have a free play moment where they work to complete all the steps to grow even more fruits and vegetables. Scenario time. I hope that everyone participates. I'm going to give a few scenarios and see how our knowledge of executive functioning is shaping up. So in this scenario, it's 6:30 a.m. and Izzy knows he has forgotten something, his Chromebook. He runs back inside the house to get it and leaves his backpack right on the bench by the door. Which executive functioning skills does Izzy need help developing? And which strategies or activities do you suggest to help him develop that skill or skills? Give you some hints. A, time management. B, organization. Or C, self-control. I agree, his memory must need some work as well. Although I didn't put that as one of the options. So memory plus whatever I chose the answer. Thank you. It is organization and working memory. He needs a little bit of time, probably with all of them. All right, next scenario. After read aloud, Mrs. Jones reviews the story elements with the help of a graphic organizer. And when she asks who was the main character in the story, everyone's hand goes up except for Kyla. Which executive functions does Kyla need help developing? Which strategies or activities do you suggest to help with that skill or skills? And I have a few options for this one as well, but feel free to add. She needed a little bit of help with self-control, mental flexibility, or working memory. Thank you. Yes, working memory. And lastly, it's lunchtime and Jet is sitting at the table with his friends. And while at the table, Jet's talking nonstop and getting in and out of his chair. Which executive functions does Jet need help developing? And or which strategies or activities do you suggest to help develop those skills? Self-control, task initiation, persistence. It's a pretty easy one. Definitely self-control. Thank you so much for participating in my scenarios. Unless we have folks who want to pop anything in the chat to discuss, I am going to conclude here, and I'm going to conclude with this beautiful quote from Maya Angelou that says, if you don't like something, change it. And if you can't change it, just change your attitude. Thank you so much. I am open to questions, comments.